What is going on, my podcast family? Welcome to another edition of You Can't Make This BS Up podcast. Before I get started, I want to tell everyone for the follows on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well, and I want to tell you guys thank you so much. It definitely gets my content out there. I got a lot of good connections I'm starting to actually do with this whole podcast game, other true crime people as well. So hopefully all this will be successful and we can actually grow this podcast to the point that I can do things like maybe do some kind of special mini tour around certain parts of the United States. Maybe go to some of these true crime conferences, and hell, we may even get to the point where we may even do what you call a guys can start scheduling me for a meet and greet, or a special guest to talk about some of the cases and the whole process of researching this stuff. So before I get started, we're going to hit these housekeeping things that we normally start with. Please, if you like this podcast, please rate it. I would love for you to give me a comment, put a comment in there because I will respond to those comments. And please share with everyone that you know that are into true crime. Also, if you really like my content, really want to support, subscriptions are available on not only Spotify, they're also available on Apple Podcasts. Also, too, I'm also on other platforms as well, which is Amazon Music. I'm also on iHeartRadio. I'm also on Deezer, Castbox, you name it. I'm on all the major platforms. All you have to do is just check me out. Please rate my episodes. If you can leave a comment, it'll be great. All right, so enough of that. Let's jump into the story of part 2 of this whole Brandi Stone case. The last time that we were talking about this, we were talking about how now everybody is really harping on Teresa Stone, and they're questioning her about her relationship with the pastor, Pastor David Love. Now, with all this going on, she knows she's feeling the heat. She's in the crosshairs. And we also left off that there was some information that was leaked to the police that she possibly had fathered a child with Pastor Love and try to pass it off as her husband, Brandi Stone. So again, this is the second part of Betrayal in the Church, the Brandi Stone case. This is part 2. And we are going to pick up where we left off. So, like I said before, she has convinced Brandi in this point that this baby is him and hers through the grace of God, when reality is really Pastor Love. Then all of a sudden, she was spared from having to explain this baby not being his because she had a miscarriage. All right. So over the years, again, the affair has now continued to grow from a sexual fantasy into a full-fledged infatuation on both sides of this relationship. Now, David and Teresa always dreamed about leaving their spouses, okay, and marrying each other. There's these emails of, honey, I'm supposed to be with you. God had made you, and I'm supposed to be my soulmate, or I feel like you are my soulmate. That bunch of BS that these scheming lovers are telling each other. They even talked about planning an outdoor wedding in one of these emails. Now, I know you're probably saying, how in the world can we have a wedding and you're still married to each other's spouses? Well, unfortunately, I guess that when you're dealing with each other under the Brother Love and Teresa Stone teachings. All that doesn't matter. So anyway, she even went on. She found a perfect dress. She making sure that David was going to be that one to see it when she found her perfect dress. I mean, you could just tell the way this is going. They were sounding like two teenagers in heat instead of grown folks that are really supposed to be in a whirlwind affair. But anyway, don't forget that over the 10 years of this going on, that the spouses did not have some suspicion. Now, okay, now there was times that Kim and Randy confronted each spouse. You know, Kim, when she confronted Randy, Randy was like, honey, come on. You know, that's my best friend's wife. I'm the pastor of a church. There's nothing going on of this sort. You know that they love me because of my charisma, my faith in God. But baby, I only have eyes for you. Randy probably confronted Teresa with the same energy as a Marine, him being an ex-Marine. I can actually see him saying, hey, I want to know something. And I want to know right now, are you banging the pastor? Excuse me, he's ex-Army. Honey, you know, that is absurd. I love the pastor like he's a brother. I mean, all I'm doing is helping. All right, cause I'm just saying, people saying that they see y'all around town and stuff, and you always in this man's office, and it's long periods of time, all this counseling, and I'm just saying, people talking, and I don't like the way people talking. You need to handle this or cut back because it ain't looking good. All right. So while they being confronted, they done brushed off the questions. Now, Kim even called David Love sending a love note to Teresa, but she didn't know at the time that's who he was sending it to. And when she called him sending an "I love you" text, David, you know, he told us some line about, honey, I'm just doing God's work. I just told someone I love them that is a stranger because, you know, you got to show love out here. Then David also told her that she was the only woman in his life, you know, and he even went as far as saying, baby, I'm removing these texts and plans from my phone because I want you to trust me as not only as your pastor, but as your husband, but as your pastor and spiritual leader. All that went down and decided that for them to communicate effectively and in secret, that's either, I'm going to possibly go with this to say that this was the idea of David Love to get a burner phone. Now, if you don't know what a burner phone is, I'm finna break it down to you. So a burner phone is the phones that you get at these cheap Dollar Tree stores, Family Dollar, or even General Dollar. Okay, these phones are about 20, 30 bucks. They don't have the best reception in the world. But what they do have is you to have access to make calls and to be able to go undetected without bothering anyone. And what's even more amazing about these type of phones is that a lot of people buy a lot of them from different locations, so that way they can be able to, if one goes bad, they got another. So that's what they are. So getting back to the burner phone, while that is going on, he is communicating with the love of his life with these phones and still telling his wife, you're the only woman in my life. I told you I'm faithful. So while this is going on, she is telling the police officers this in the interrogation room. I mean, she is like talking about how they are connected with all of this. And so while she's talking about how they communicating with this decade affair and everything else, you had Rose Warren, the detective, about to be more descriptive. Now, sure, Randy had a military background, but there was a lot of police officers that was friends with him due to that church. And them being his friend, they wanted justice, okay? Just like everyone else. Because again, Randy was a very great guy, and loyal servant to the Lord, and did what is right when no one was looking. And yeah, it's so while the officers are upset about all this, the detective decided to turn all this line of questioning that she's been answering and start pointing out these discrepancies. Now, those discrepancies included the 2 phone calls she made immediately after she discovered her husband's body. Remember, we talked about this in the previous episode. She had said to her parents that he had been shot, okay, in the 911 call. But when she talked to the detectives and the rest of the police officers, she didn't know. So she also talked about after they pried it out of her for the longest. Teresa also went in and talked about David sent her told her. So anyway, Teresa maintained she hadn't played any part in planning the murder. But of course, she hadn't played any part in planning the murder. So at this course, she was looking like she wasn't going to have no kind of hearing until God knows when. So in the meantime, after they got all this confection from out of Teresa, the first thing come out of their mind, out of their mouths, were, why are you trying to protect this man who is a pastor and bring you this type of grief at your doorstep? And her words were that he was a man of God. He's a righteous man of God. And all the stuff that comes with someone being God. So after that going on, that's when the cops were like, listen, we need more evidence to concrete that he involved. Is there any way that you can call him? She was like, yeah, of course. First thing they did was give her a get her in position to call him. She called him and she immediately started going in talking about what they had going on and what type of time that she was facing and all of that stuff. And while this is going on, David is not dumb. David gets smart. David like, wait a minute now. You calling me on a regular phone, asking me all these questions. No, I don't feel comfortable. So he denied. And he was like, I am not about to get caught up in this. Girl, you crazy. And so as soon as that happened, that was like a big failure. Because they were like, man, he didn't take the bait. And not to mention, while this is going on, his wife overheard this conversation. And she was quick to jump on the line and was like, yo, what are you trying to get my husband into, Cookie? Okay, I already know you banging him. That's an open secret. We know. I know you've been messing with my husband for the longest, but now you trying to get him tied up in the murder of your husband? Like shit you will. Don't you ever call our home again. So that's how that worked. The first lady got told all 6 ways from Sunday. David's like, no, baby, I didn't know it done got this deep. So Love is looking at him all kind of ways. So anyway, David decides that he gonna get in the car and leave. Because now it's almost 1 a.m. And while that is going on, they decided that since this isn't almost 1 o'clock in the morning by now, that they decided that since this isn't going to work with his confession over the phone, that they just going to bring him in for questioning that same night. Now, Teresa, she done been there for 8 hours on this, talking to the cops. You know what I mean? Like, they done had him up there for 8 hours. So 8 hours of interrogation, they bring a Pastor Love in. Now, when they bring Pastor Love in, he walks by the hallway and he sees Teresa. So he already know, man, what does this broad done say to these people? So he gets in there. They try to interrogate the pastor. With the first question, the pastor says, look, I'm not going to speak to y'all without a lawyer present. I don't trust you guys. When that happened, okay, and he's talking about he doesn't know the law and all this, and they already done told him, like, listen, if you don't talk soon, don't be surprised that you gonna get a first-degree murder charge within the 24-hour time period. Now, it's real loose around here about that kind of thing because, again, you got to have things in place to show that you're responsible enough for the alcoholic drink. But I digress. This is not about alcohol. So anyway, in the morning they think that he's gonna be incorporated, trying to dangle some freedom in front of his face. Well, once again, David got luck on his side because I can't say God, and he was able to leave. They had nothing on him. They couldn't do anything with him. He wasn't gonna make a confession, and he already told them that he had a lawyer already in place if need be. So once again, they let him go, and he goes because right now the only thing they had concrete was analysis of his cell phone and his computers to have to be complete. And guys, y'all gotta remember, this is between 2010 and 2011. This is like 14 years ago. 14 years ago is like in technology, is like ancient history. Okay? Because back then things were not as fast paced as it is now. They got things now where you can analyze the phones and the towers and all that stuff can come to you within a day. And getting things analyzed about things about weapons and DNA and all that, now that can be getting to you within 1 to 3 days. So this stuff now doesn't take long. It's not like it used to be. After this did not work and they had to let him go. So while that happens, they get their results back. That's what it is. They get the results back. They also got the downloads from the computer. And it shows a lot of emails and stuff between them about talking about how the Bible precedes murder. Like when the birth of Solomon from King David with Bathsheba. Yeah. How he put her then husband on the front line. He even talked about the stories he recited in those emails about not committing adultery and stay true to the word, all that stuff. So anyway, they also uncovered emails in the summer of 2010 that Randy had sent to the New Hope Baptist Church 2 weeks before his murder. Now I'm going to break this down verbatim. It says, resigning as a finance minister and as a Sunday school teacher, effective immediately. I do not want to talk about it. I do not want any emails. I do not want any visits. He was completely leaving the church because he had figured out that the affair figured out. Now this is what Dustin was never confirmed or not, but a lot of people think that he said when he said there's a lot of secrets to uncover that he had figured out about his wife's affair with the pastor. He had really confirmed it. Some say it just stemmed from him finding out about the financial records. But again, at the end of this, I will tell you my thoughts about if he knew about that affair or not. So either way it goes, he also uncovered that Pastor Love's, I don't know if this is his oldest son, but I know one of his older sons were arrested for DUI. And that would have looked real bad for a minister of his type of charisma to be involved in that. So with that cover up coming out, like, yo, I can't do this. This is too much. Too much getting swept under the rug. So, like any husband who have just found out that the church you have been investing your time in has been betraying other people, decides that, y'all give me 1 second. I want to get this right. So anywho, it was time for David to leave. And he had already been told, time for Randy to leave. And Randy had already told his wife, like, listen, I'm leaving this church. And if you love me like you say you do, you'll be ready to go and follow me too. And then he finding out that the pastor's indulging in all these social events with heavy alcohol around. And it just enough to make him get turned off. I think that this is what really started the ball really rolling. Because Teresa was like, oh my God, I'm getting taken away from my beloved David. I'm not going to be able to have those office rendezvous with him while he's up there. And I ain't be able to do this, that. Yeah, it was nerve wracking. So after this, she tells David, about she really want Randy out the picture. And her thing was she needed codes to get in and out. And she got this system of garage code. But anyway, fast forward to November of 2010. They finally filed charges on David Love, but he's still maintaining his innocence. And then finally, since he's moving forward for this trial, and there's a lot of litigation, suing and stuff like that, they want to dispose of the children of David on. Well, not David, but what's his name? Anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. So, like I said, it's been 8 months since the murder, and they are like trying to get him to take a plea deal. So anyway, they secure the charges against him, and he's going to get a public defender. He's going to go forward with a trial. So he maintained his innocence. Meanwhile, they inform his woman that's holding him down that his child is about to be disposed. And yeah, ain't that something? So hearing about your children about to be disposed, and his wife, now they telling him, she's talking about she never took a deal. The young girl, his daughter, not his daughter, but the people that was testifying in his behalf in the rain. Wait a minute, let me see something here. Hold on. Okay. So his wife about to be dispositioned. His child about to dispose, and Teresa's daughter is about to be exposed. So that, my bad, disposed. So that's what's going on. All these group of people that had to tell the truth under oath. That's what the spies mean. And probably in front of a grand jury. So they're like, I don't want to do all this, start these depositions. So they go and find out, what can I do to stop it? And they said, well, it's easy. You're going to have to switch them out for a mattress on this end. So anyway, his public defender reached out to the prosecution team. And the prosecutor was like, hey, would you take some of that first degree? Anyway, he was looking at an automatic life prison without possibility of parole. And they were like, well, can we do murder too? And without the possibility of parole off the table? And they said yes. And so the prosecutor was like, yes, but he has to take that plea by Monday, because Monday would be when all of those has to be take that deal by Monday. So anyway, during that time, he's reflecting. He's thinking about all the things that he could have done and should have done. So again, it's 2011 of November. It's been a year since this tragedy has happened, and the trial is starting to settle in December. And still taking them a while to take this wire. They decided to just do regular rope to keep things in place while he's trying to get some kind of bond or whatever, or he may have to stay until trial. So finally, it got to the point that Kim had to step in, Randy's wife, and tell him, Randy, you're not beating this case. They got too much evidence against you. You take this to trial, you're never going to see the light of day. But if you go with prosecution, all right, go against the prosecution and not get your facts in order, you may never get them in order again. But you can make the call. So when Randy gets this deal, it's to me not much of a deal. They might as well say it's a life sentence, because now he's not eligible for parole until he hits mid-70s. Now, as for Teresa Stone, she held out because she wanted the best deal ever. And that best deal was to go ahead on and plead guilty. And when she pleaded guilty, she got 10 years for basically accessory to murder type of charge to me, which she got away very, very light. And not to mention, she also got time served from being back there in the prison almost 2 years. So the aftermath of all this, right? The church had to find a new pastor. He had to put in the work to rebuild that church, because this man had left it in shambles with all this nasty rumors and things of that nature. Now, update on Teresa Stone. Teresa is out of prison. She is currently moved to Kansas City, Missouri, where she originally from, with her new man. Now, they didn't really show no picture of her new man or whatever. I hope that this brother is sleeping with one eye open, because she would have told me how she plotted to kill her husband. Nah, player, you ain't sleeping nowhere around me where I can't have my head on a swivel. So yeah, shout out to him for withstanding that craziness. The next thing is about David Love. So David Love has tried to appeal his case so many times, they done got denied. And so I'm quite sure he's accepted that this is where he's gonna die. All right, so let's talk about my thoughts about this case to wrap it up. So my thoughts about this case. One thing for sure I'm gonna say is this. The part of the first part that we talked about, and I don't know if I included this in the story, that Randy had changed his life insurance policy to where it would only go to the girls. I felt like Randy Ben knew that his wife and best friend had been screwing around. I think he knew it before he went and looked at the financials. I think he had accepted the fact that his wife was having a full-fledged afraid like that. And I'm not bothered. But what I am bothered by is the fact of the matter that Teresa allowed herself to get in the web of David Love. You would think when you have a pregnancy by someone and the baby is a miscarriage, that should wake you up and say, God is trying to tell you this is not who you're supposed to be with. You are supposed to be with the man that has been holding you down, being faithful and doing what he needs to do to get you in his life. I think the second thing is about Teresa Stone is I think Teresa Stone liked the fact of how David had all this confidence and was very how can I put this, non-aggressive alpha. And yeah, it just worked out perfect that way. Now, as for the church, I'm glad that they are rebuilding and being very much, but the minister that they got really put in the work to get that church back to the numbers it used to be in the 300s. This is just a sad case because this could have all been prevented. Only thing they had to do was just leave their spouse, and they could have ran off to another city and start over. I just think it's pretty crummy that Teresa Stone only got 10 years. I really feel like Teresa should have got more. Personally, I think Teresa shouldn't have gotten not a minimum of 25 years because that was just stone cold what she did. So anyway, guys, that is the story of the betrayal of the church, the Brandi Stone case. Guys, listen, just because you go to church and people say that they love the Lord and this, that, and the third does not mean that they are for the Lord and or your best interests. So always keep that in mind. With that being stated, I'm out.